Welcome to the Network Engineering Video Blog. I am your host, Michael Crane. In today's Automation Minute, we're going to create a small GUI in Visual Basic that uses Sockets.TCPClient to send commands to our Xena Gigabit test-sets API and uses the Sockets.NetworkStream to read the responses back. Okay? I'm using Microsoft Visual Studio Community 2017 for my IDE, which can be downloaded for free from Microsoft. A link to the source code and Visual Studio project files is in the description under the video. I referenced Microsoft's .NET TCP Client class example for most of the TCP Client code, and Xena's scripting API overview for the API commands. The links to both of these docs will be in the description under the video as well. Let's go ahead and pull up Microsoft Visual Studio, and we'll just click on Create a New Project. Please ignore the black lines. I think it's OBS Studio causing that problem. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to create a Windows Form app. All right. We'll just call it okay. Creates us this new form, which is great. Let me X out of this. That's part of the display problem. Okay, well, we don't need our GUI to be that big. And if you've never created a GUI in Visual Basic or Visual Studio, I should say, it is easy peasy. So, what do we want? I want to base it off of this Xena script client. Xena has a script client that you can use to test commands with, and it's got to connect, and once you connect, you can type in commands down here, and I guess we can just go ahead and do it. You enter the IP address in, and you can type in commands like C_logon Xena, and it returns a OK back, right? And that's kind of what we want too, is we want to test commands and then grow our automation program around. All right. So, what we need is a couple of buttons here. Let's button. Okay, there's button 1, and this will be our connect button. Okay. And then we need another button, button 2. This will be our send button. All right. And let's see, we need a couple text boxes. Text box. And this will be, I'll call this TXT connect. Okay. Make him a little bigger. And another text box here. Actually, we need 2 text boxes. We need one for the IP address and then one for the port. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and plug the IP address of our Xena in here. IP address is 192.168.1.200. Okay. All right. Make him a little smaller. And the port, we can get off the Xena document here. Here we go. Okay, it's 2261. 22611. All right, so this will be our TXT connect port. It's going to be 22611. All right. Gonna straighten them up a little bit. Okay. Let's see, what else we need? We need another text box here for our commands. All right, these are the commands we're going to send. And I'm going to go ahead and rename this guy to text connect IP ADDR. And the reason why I'm doing this is it helps me when I'm writing code. I know what it is, right? Okay. Let's see. So now we've got these two. Now we need a response text box. So I'll do another text box here, pop them in here. And this guy we want to be multi-line. So if you click on a little bitty arrow up here, you can say multi-line. And it gives you a way to expand the box. All right. And just straighten them out a little bit. Okay. Okay, well, we forgot to, let's see, let's rename this guy to text send. Okay. And this is going to be text receive. All right. And that, my friends, is all there is to creating a GUI in Visual Basic, which is pretty easy. And Microsoft, of course, auto-generated the code for us, and they really don't want you to change it. But if you want to look at it, you can just come down here under the form and click on like button 1 as button where it's declaring it, and it'll pull up the Form 1 VB design code. And as you can see, it's got all kinds of stuff in here telling you that it was auto-generated and not to mess with it, or you're going to mess up their auto-generation tool. And I'll close this guy down. Let's go back into our form design. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a view code. And as you can see, there's really no code. Now this code is different from what we just looked at, the auto-generated stuff. This is where we're going to put all our TCP client code in. Okay, so since I've already written this code, and I don't want to bore you to tears watching me write code, we're just going to select all and then copy. And we're going to paste it into our new project here. All right. And I'm sure there's going to be some errors because I probably didn't name everything correctly. Okay, so we'll just start from the top here real quick, and we'll fix the errors as we kind of review what I've plugged in here. Globals up here, it's importing system.net.sockets for our TCP client and NetworkStream classes, okay? And, okay, so the first subroutine here is button connect, and it handles the button connect click, all right? And you can see I didn't name our button, so we're going to come back over here to button connect and come down, way down here into the design and call button 1 here BTN connect. Okay, let's go back over to form 1, and all right, so we cleared that error out. Okay, and so basically what happens is you click on the connect button and he gets the IP address and the port out of the text boxes, and this one is a string, and this one he's going to convert into an integer, which is pretty nice because we don't have to add any special casting from text to integer. You just define it port as an integer. Just very nice. this is a little goofy thing I stuck in there. It's if button.text like connect, then we want to connect to the server. If it says disconnect, the text on the button says disconnect, then we're going to disconnect from the server. All right, we'll get to those subroutines here in a minute. Okay, so the next one is button send. This is where we're going to send our commands to the TCP server. As you can see, I forgot to name the button send. So let's go up here to our designer, click on button send, scroll down to, there we go. This is btn send. All right. And okay, so we cleaned up that error. And so now I'm getting the text from this text box, the text send box, which is this guy right here. I'm also adding a control line feed, which if you look at the Xena documentation, yeah, it says everything needs to be terminated by control line feed. All right. So we need to add that in our text string, okay? Our command string, I should say. And then this data right here is converting our command. This is actually casting it into bytes. Okay, so it's going to write it to the stream. And this timer right here, when you send a command to anything over a network, it's going to have a little bit of a delay. So the code runs at lightning fast speeds, and the network not so much. So what we have to do is we have to, put a delay in, right? You don't really want to use sleep or anything like that, because that'll pause the whole program. And so what we want to do is create an event callback, and this timer that we're going to create does that. And so I'm just turning on the timer. The timer, you had the timer, and this is really goofy and Visual Basic. It's a head scratcher. But anyway, you come back to the GUI actually, your form designer, and you click on Toolbox and you come down here to Timer, right here, and you just kind of drag them anywhere, I guess, and it disappears off the GUI. And you'll see down here there's a little box that says Timer. And come down here and just call them timer receive. All right. Go ahead and save that. Okay, so that cleaned him up. This is where we turn him on. And by the way, he defaults. Oh, to set the 500 milliseconds, you come back here, click on timer, and you see this interval right here. It's set to 100 milliseconds. So we're just going to put in 500, which is a half a second. And that is extremely slow for a network. But if there's a large amount of text coming back, we want to give the test set enough time to process it and then send it back to us. Okay, so let's go back over to our form designer. So we've added our 500 millisecond delay. And okay, so when we click send, he's going to send the command. He's going to clear the text box, and then he's going to wait 500 milliseconds and then fire an event. Comes all the way down to right here. I called it wait. But anyway, here's the timer receive, and it ticks. So as soon as this timer ticks, it's going to disable the receive timer, and it's going to fire off this get response subroutine. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, so let's go back up. So here's our connect, and that's called from up here in our button click event, button connect click event. So it's going to connect, and it's going to pass the server and the port to the subroutine. So when we click on connect, it's going to be our TCP client, and it's going to pass in the server and port, which will open up a connection to our Xena test set. And so I'm kind of looking at this. I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, this looks like it's creating a local variable client for the subroutine. Although I made it a global up here so I didn't have to worry about trying to pass it around. Strangely enough, it seemed to work okay, but this isn't right. So I'm going to come back up here, and I should have noticed it right when I was doing it. So we just want to say, okay, we're going to make this variable. It's going to hold this TCP client object, right? And it's going to be global, so I don't have to pass it around to all the subroutines, even though I didn't seem to have to. All right, so now we're going to take this dim statement out of there. I'm going to keep the new statement in there, but I'm going to replace this as an equal sign. And I think that'll work. That'll now pop it into our global variable. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so yeah, then the stream I had done correctly. So it's opening up the receive to get information from the socket, the TCP socket. All right. Now there are ways to check to see if the socket's connected. If you pull up Microsoft's documentation on this connected, where it's just a Boolean. If you read down through it, though, it says that you cannot reliably test the state of the connection because in time between the test and the send-receive, your connection could have been lost. So it says your code should assume the socket is connected and gracefully handle failed transmissions, which would be it would throw an exception, and you should just handle that. Okay? So that's why I just kind of threw this in here and didn't worry about trying to do, if it's connected, do this and that, another thing. Okay? And then, of course, here's our disconnect subroutine, and that just basically closes the stream in the client, and it also changes the button text back to connect. And also, I don't think we need these try catches. I'd have to look at the document. I don't know if it actually throws an exception closing. Like if the stream is null and the client is null and you call it close, if it'll throw an exception, probably could be cleaned up. And in the get response, we're going to create a response buffer, 256 bytes long, to store our response. And you might have to make that bigger, and we might later on. But for right now, it works for what we're doing. Okay, so then we're going to create this string, response data. And I don't know why it's got these casts in here. Okay, so now what it's going to do is going to look in the stream and say, okay, if there's some data available, in other words, if the receiver responded with something, and it's going to read it, and it's going to put it in this buffer. Let me pull up the help here. So you can see it's going to put it in a buffer. There's an offset. We don't want any offset, so it's set to 0. And the length is just the length of our buffer. And then it's going to cast this, or get the string with this huge, long command, convert it into a string, right? All right, so we need to fix our text response here. So let's go over to our text field here and let's see. Oh, I called it text receive, not text. What did I say? Text response. Okay. Text response. All right. See if that cleaned that up. Oh, yep. Yes, it did. Okay. So now all it's doing is it's just going to append the response to our text field, which is this multi-line text box. So that's if there's data available. If there's not, I'm just going to say there's no response, right? No response to both the text box and the debug window or immediate window, and continue on. And the reason why I'm checking to see if there's anything available, which is different than the example, is if you try to do the stream read right here, it will block the program until it reads some data. And that can be bad, especially if you don't get a response. So we just need to move on if that's the case. All right. So that is the end of our TCP client code. Let's go ahead and save this and see if it runs or see if it works. Well, the GUI popped up. That's good. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up Wireshark here. Let's see if I can get both these windows up here. Okay. I'm going to add a filter on this guy. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to send the connect. Yep. Okay, so we send them a sync. And we got a sync ACK back. And we send another ACK. Okay, so our socket looks like it's up. Let's plug in a few commands. I pulled some commands out of the document. I basically copied and pasted this stuff in here, these commands in here. So I'm just going to copy this guy. Ah, very good. So we got our OK back, and you can see it's communicating. And the Wireshark capture is just used in case things are going bad, right? And we'll go ahead and copy this command in here, paste them, send. We got the OK back. That's good. Now we're going to select 00, which is the interface, or module and interface. Send that. And this is why I was running into problems earlier with that read. It was locking everything up. So I had to check. And if I didn't get a response back, I just had to move on. All right, because apparently sending this to the Xena doesn't give you a response back. Go figure, huh? Okay, so now we're just going to go query the interface, copy, paste it in here. There we go. Okay, that's great. Let's go ahead and disconnect. And, yep, we sent our disconnect, so we've cleaned everything up. Excellent. In the next videos, we'll have to do some parsing and make it a little more intelligent, but this is a good start. That's about it for this automation minute. I know it was over a minute long. I apologize for that. With that being said, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments under the video. If you like the video, give it a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. That really helps. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.